Hi everyone, welcome to our channel. So this is .NET 7 Blazor WebAssembly JWT Authentication series, and it is second video. In this video, we are going to create user registration API endpoint. Now we are going to create the user registration API endpoint. So here is my SQL script for creating the table. It is a simple table where I have columns like first name, last name, email and password. Okay, execute it. So I have successfully created the table and I can check the table here. Okay, now let's create the API project. Right click on the solution. Okay, add new project. Okay, here select API. Okay, select this template and click on next. Here now we can give a name to our project. So I will name it like JWT Auth.API. Okay, click on next and select .NET 7. Okay, framework. Click on create. So for database communication, we are going to use EF Core. So let's install the EF Core package in our API project. Okay. Okay, such like EF Core. So this is the package we have to install. Click on install. And here is the green tick mark that represents package installed successfully. Now we need to install one more package. Okay, that is SQL, EF Core SQL. Okay, here is the package. So let's install it. Okay, here also we got tick mark. So both the packages installed successfully. And we can check them directly in the packages. Okay, EF Core and EF Core SQL. So now in app setting development.json, let's add the connection string for the SQL. Okay, so connection string. Here I will give a property like my old DB connection. Okay, to this property assign our connection string. Okay, this is my connection string I added. So it is very simple to prepare the connection string. It is a key value pair. So here data source is key and name of the server is value. Initial catalog is key and database name is value. Okay, integrate security equal to true means we are allowing Windows authentication and connection timeout. Okay, so now let's create a class that represents our table, that is users. Okay, for that let's create new folder like data. Inside the data add one more folder like entities. So in this entities folder, we can add all our table classes. Okay, let me create a class like user. Okay, so here is my user table. So copy these properties just for reference, add it here. Okay, and now add these columns as properties to our user class. Okay, these are our table classes I can make them nullable. Now let's create the database context class to control the entities so that we can easily query on our table using entity framework core. So in the data folder itself, let me create a new class and I will name it like my world DB context. Okay. So it must inherit DB context to become a DB context class. Okay, that comes from entity framework core. Let's add the constructor and provide the DB context options. Okay, and here type is nothing but our class type. Okay, so options, pass it to the base class. Okay, now we have to register our table class here. So what is our table class? Users, right? So public db set, okay, user, okay. So I registered the table class as well. Now we have to register my world DB context with dependency injection so that we can inject the context class wherever we want. Okay, so go to program.cs file. Okay, here we can register builder.services dot add DB context and specify our class type. Okay, and options. Okay, options dot use SQL server. Okay, here we have to pass the connection string. So builder dot configuration dot get connection string. Okay, here we have to pass our connection string property from the JSON file, that is my world DB connection. Okay, pass it here. Okay, so to implement user registration, we need to write logic, right? So all the logics we are going to add it in services files. Okay, let's create a new folder inside of the API project. Okay, add folder like services. Okay, first let me create an interface. Okay, okay, create a interface like iUser service. Okay, and let's create a class to implement this iUser service. The class is like user service. Okay, let's inject the iUser service here. Okay, sorry, inherit. Now let's register the services in the program.cs file at scope level. Okay, builder.services.add scope. Scoped means the object will be created one time for the request. Okay, user service, comma, user service. Okay, now let's define a method inside of our iUser service. Register new user. Okay, so this must contain the payload object, right? So first we have to define the payload object. So for that, let's create DTOs. So create a new folder like DTOs. Okay, and add a class like user registration DTO. Okay, so it should be similar to our view models, registration view model. So copy the properties from here. Okay, assign it here. Okay, now I got payload type. So here I can pass it as a input parameter type. So user registration. Okay, recognize user registration. Okay, user registration. So I want to return two kind of information from this method. So for that I will use tuple. Okay. So pool is user registered. A flag successfully user is registered or not. Okay. And string some message. A boolean type. And it should be a synchronous call for me. Okay. So task and register new user async. Okay. So this is my method definition for registering the new user. So let's implement this method. First, let's validate the user already registered or not, okay? To make sure the email to be unique, okay? So for that, so where is user exist, okay? So we have to interact with DB context, right? So we need to inject the DB context. So private read only my old DB context. Okay, add the constructor and inject the context. Okay, old DB context. Now I can check whether the user is exist or not. So for that, users dot any will gives the boolean value based on the condition inside of it. Okay, here I am going to check email dot toolover equal to user registration email toolover. Okay, if user exists, okay, then we should not register him again. Return false, that means user not registered, and add message like email address already registered. Okay, okay, and method should contain AC. Now, if user is not exist, then we need to insert into the database. But our payload type is user registration DTO, right? But we want to convert into user object. So let me create a one private method for mapping. Okay, or else you can use auto mapper also. Okay, here I am going to use manual mapping. User from user registration model to user model. Okay, and here our user registration model will be input. Okay, now here I can return new user object and import the namespace. Okay, email, first name, last name, password. Okay, so where new user equal to from, okay, and user registration model. Okay, but now we will have user password is a plain password, but we never save plain password into the database. Okay, we must hash it. Okay, hashing means one-way encryption. Okay, we cannot decrypt it. So we need to implement the password hashing now. Okay, so let me create a one more private method. Okay, private string hash password. I will name it like hash password method name. Okay, so to this method, our plain password is the input parameter. A string plain password. Okay, first for any password encryption or hashing, we require a salt. Okay, so let me first generate the salt. Okay, so my salt is 16 byte salt. Okay, so 16 byte salt. Okay, so using var rng random number generator. Okay, from the security.cryptography. Okay, create. I am going to generate the random number. I am going to push it into the my salt byte array. Okay. Next, using RFC 2898 derive byte. Okay. Using this its container overloaded method. So first parameter will be the my password which I want to hash. That is plain password. Next, salt key. Okay. Here there is a overloaded method. Okay. Number of iterations we want to do. Number of iterations means it will do hashing by looping. So number of iterations will increase the complexity of our hashing, means more security. I will give like 1000 iterations. Okay. And finally, I am going to specify the algorithm. Okay, that is hash algorithm SHA1. Okay. Where RFC password. Okay. I will name it like a RFC password. Okay, from this RFC password, I am going to read 20 bytes of password. Okay, so bytes of RFC password hash. From this, I am going to read RFC password dot get bytes of 20 bytes. I am going to read. Okay, and finally, I want to generate the 36 bytes of password. Okay, for that. So my final password hash equal to new bytes of 36. Okay, 36 bytes. Okay, now I am going to copy array.copy. Okay, first I am going to copy the salt. So salt into my password hash. That means first in the password hash, first 16 bytes are my salt key. Okay, so here I can specify from 0 to 16 bytes. Okay, copy the salt. So starting index of the salt also we have to specify from 0. Okay, from 0 to end, total 16 bytes of our salt key is pushed into this password hash. Same way I can copy my 20 bytes of hashed password. Okay, RFC password hash here. Okay, so RFC password hash comma from 0. It is all starting from 0. Okay, and into the password hash array from 16 to 20. Okay, remaining starts from 16 byte to 20 bytes. Push the RFC password. Okay, and finally I am going to return base 64 string of, so convert base 64 string of my password hash. Okay, so that is my simple method to converting the or hashing our password. Okay, so new user dot password equal to password parse. So finally I am going to add the my new user object to the context. Okay, and I am going to call my old DB save changes, and here finally I will return true and success, some success message. Okay, so I am done with the implementing the user login method logic. So now let's create the controller. So in the controller folder, let's add new controller. Okay, select the API and empty controller and add and give name like users. Okay, user controller. So here first let's inject our iUser services. Okay, so iUser service and add the constructor and inject the iUser service here. Okay, so user service. So user service equal to user service. Okay, so here I am going to create the HTTP post endpoint, right, for registration. HTTP post. Okay, public async task iAction result user registration. Okay, and our payload, that is user registration DTO, user registration DTO. Okay, and here we have to specify the path. Okay, explicitly. So I will give path like register. Okay, remove this. Okay. And now I can call result equal to await user service dot register new user. Okay, and now if at all, if result dot is user registered, okay, that means then I am going to return the okay with result dot message, success message. Okay, if it is false, that means user registration failed, then I am going to add the model state with the error. Okay, add model error. So here we have to provide the key. So I am doing only email validation, right? So I am going to add it as a key and message result dot message as the value. Okay, and finally I am going to return bad request with our model state as input parameter. Okay, so here if you observe, I am doing only one validation, that is user is already exist or not. Okay, but remaining all validations we have already implemented on client side, right? I click, all the validations are applied here. But if you want, you can apply same validation on as it is same validations on API also. Okay, but in real time it is good to add validations at API. For this demo I'm just skipping since I have already added in client side, right? If I add now also, those looks same redundant. Okay, but please make sure to add them at the server side also. So we are done with our API endpoint, so let's test it. Okay, here is my endpoint. Let's try to register. So I will give my name. Okay. Okay. Let's execute. See, I got 200 success message. If I go to my table, okay, if I execute, the record is inserted. And if you observe, here my password is C hashed one, not a plain one. Okay. Now, if I again execute, okay, if I again try to create with same email address, let's check the output. See here, I am getting 400 bad request and also error message. Okay. From this, we can understand we successfully implemented the user registration endpoint. Okay. Next, we are going to consume this user registration endpoint from our Blazor WebAssembly application. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video delivered some useful content to you all. If you like the video, please do support by subscribing to the channel, and also please don't forget to like and share the video. Soon we are going to meet with new content. Until then, signing off.